At midday near the US-Mexico border, two robbers in clown masks fled from police. One was shot and badly injured, but Mark, the driver, refused to stop. With police closing in, he aimed for the border gate. On the Mexican side, more patrol cars were waiting. Mark swerved along the fence until his tires were hit. He pushed the car over a dirt mound and crossed into Mexico, but the engine failed. Mexican police captured him immediately. Captured on foreign soil, he had no idea what awaited him next. This is Get the Gringo. Soon after, an American officer named Bill arrived. He asked Mexican officer Vasquez to hand Mark over. Vasquez agreed at first, but when he saw the stolen cash, he changed his mind. He wanted both Mark and the money kept in Mexico. Bill and Vasquez were both corrupt, but since they were on Mexican soil, Vasquez took control. Bill allowed it, demanding only that Mark be killed. Mark and the money were loaded into a car. Some of Vasquez's men tried to open the trunk, but he stopped them. Two unknown figures watched from a distance. On the road, Vasquez tried to question Mark. Mark stayed silent. Frustrated, Vasquez slapped him, then gave up. With the money already in his hands, he chose to send Mark to a special prison. Later, at the station, Vasquez falsely accused Mark and had him transferred to El Pueblito prison. Mark accepted it, knowing the money was gone from his reach. Before entering the prison block, new inmates were gathered. Some handed over weapons. One man demanded Mark's shoes. He refused, and a fight broke out.
Fucking ouch.
Jack, a U.S. Embassy representative, witnessed the brawl. Mark was beaten, but he still kept his shoes. Carlos, another inmate, warned him that survival here would not be easy. Soon after, the warden Armando arrived. Guards shut off the music as he entered. He welcomed the newcomers and reminded them that freedom inside El Pueblito was an illusion. Anyone who caused trouble would face punishment. Later, Armando met with Jack. Jack asked why an American like Mark was sent there, but Armando brushed it off and said they would speak tomorrow. Hours later, Mark was taken into the main prison. There were no cells. Men and women roamed freely. It looked like a small town filled with shops, entertainment, and drugs. Mark knew he needed money to survive. He saw Carlos enter a restroom and followed once the guard outside fell asleep. Inside, he attacked Carlos, knocked him out, and stole his money and watch. He found a pistol but left it, hiding it in the ceiling instead. That night, with no cells available, prisoners slept in the streets. Mark lay down among them for the first time. The next morning, Mark and the new prisoners were sent to work at the garbage dump. While working, he was surprised to see a young child inside the prison. Confused, he ignored it and focused on his task. Not long after, a corrupt policeman arrived with his partner. Mark tried to defend himself with a wooden stick, but the officer pulled a gun. His men beat him, and a nurse named Maylana arrived to draw his blood. As days passed, Mark began to understand the prison better. It was not controlled only by the warden. Inside were houses, families, and even a school for children. While walking through the grounds, he noticed two men who held respect among the inmates, Caracas and Carnal. He later learned they worked under Javi, a man who controlled everything from above while speaking on the phone. Mark realized Javi was the one he needed to reach, but first he needed more information and money. The next day, Mark bribed a guard with his last bit of cash to avoid dump duty. While moving around the grounds, he spotted a pharmacy that also sold drugs. It was always crowded. He carefully studied how the seller handled money and examined the area, planning a robbery. Soon after, Mark stole a bottle of oil from a food vendor, poured it near a shop next to the pharmacy, and set it on fire. As the flames spread, the pharmacy owner ran outside. Mark slipped in, grabbed a jar of money, and escaped through the back. Later, he bought cigarettes and canned drinks. While watching the fire, a boy named Hernandez asked him for a cigarette. When Mark refused, Hernandez threatened to report him. Mark gave in and used the chance to ask questions. Hernandez explained that he lived in the prison because he was the son of an inmate. Even after his father's death, he stayed with his mother, Herdia. Families could live inside if they paid rent, which explained the children Mark had seen earlier. Hernandez boasted that he was special and did not attend school. Their conversation ended when Herdia arrived and told her son to go home. The following day, Mark met Jack, who still questioned how an American ended up in the prison. There were no records of Mark's identity, and his fingerprints had been erased. Jack realized Mark was not an ordinary prisoner. He demanded answers, but Mark refused and instead offered money for help. Jack, convinced Mark had nothing, rejected him and decided to investigate alone, leaving Mark behind. Later, Mark saw Carnal collecting rent from a woman. After Carnal left, Mark asked her for a place to stay. Since he requested only a small space, Carnal gave him an old bed from a former tenant. Mark accepted and cleaned himself in the public bathroom. That night, one of the prison blocks turned into a casino for guards. Armando and others gambled, while women linked to Javi entertained them. From a distance, Mark noticed that one of the women was Herdia. After her husband's death, she had been forced to work there to support Hernandez. When Herdia saw Mark staring at her while smoking, she grew angry, confronted him, and struck him. Soon after, she left with Hernandez, who had come to take her home. The next morning, several inmates attempted to escape. They were executed immediately. Hernandez explained that prisoners were free to do almost anything inside, but no one risked escape because the penalty was death. Even Javi, the most powerful man in the prison, needed permission to leave. He ruled with the support of his brother Caracas and their cousin Carnal. During their conversation, Hernandez admitted he wanted to kill Javi. Mark was shocked and asked why, and also why his blood had been taken on the first day. Hernandez replied that he would only explain in exchange for cigarettes. Mark refused and gave him a drink instead. Meanwhile, Jack followed Vasquez and saw him spending money on parties, women, and luxury cars. On the weekend, families entered the prison. The place turned into a festival with children and games. While buying a drink, Mark saw Hernandez fighting with another boy. Caracas, walking with Javi, broke up the fight and defended Hernandez. Javi left, but Hernandez pulled out a gun, ready to attack. Mark stopped him, warning the attempt would fail. Hernandez later followed Mark and asked about other plans. Mark told him none would work because his weapon was not lethal. He pressed Hernandez to explain why Javi protected him. At first, Hernandez stayed silent. Mark shoved him against a wall until he finally admitted the truth. Javi had killed his father. Hernandez revealed that his parents were jailed for drug dealing. His father once worked for Javi but was murdered so Javi could take his liver for a transplant. Hernandez wanted to kill Javi to reclaim his father's liver and give him a proper burial. He also explained that Javi still needed another transplant, and only a few people were suitable donors, including himself. That was why Javi kept him safe. Mark realized the blood samples from new prisoners were tested to find organ donors for Javi. After hearing this, Mark shared his own past. As a teenager, he had been jailed for beating his abusive father while defending his mother. His father survived, but Mark was still sentenced. He advised Hernandez to plan carefully before acting. He also revealed that he had once served as a sniper in the military and asked Hernandez to help him with a mission inside the prison. Hernandez agreed. Later, Hernandez followed Javi. During that time, Caracas admitted he disliked Carnal because he caused problems. He wanted him gone, but Javi refused, insisting family must be protected. Mark later told Hernandez about this conversation. Elsewhere, Mark's car was searched by Mike and Martin, the men who had arrested him. Their search was interrupted by Jack. When they learned Jack was a cop, Martin pulled a gun. Jack calmed them, claiming he knew who had stolen the money and where it was being spent.
Take it easy, cowboy.
The next day, Mark attended a wrestling match with Hernandez. Hernandez pointed out who the important figures were. While looking for her son, Herdia saw them together. When Hernandez lit a cigarette, Mark snatched it away and gave him money for ice cream instead. Herdia thanked Mark for stopping her son from smoking. She invited him for a drink, but before he could respond, a guard called him away. Mark was taken to meet Vasquez and Romero. They questioned him about two policemen who had been present during his arrest and were now dead. Vasquez demanded to know where the $2 million had come from. Mark avoided the question, which made Vasquez furious. He warned that whoever killed the officers must also know Mark was inside the prison. Mark stayed calm. He told Vasquez and Romero they would be the first to die, since they had already spent his money. He advised them to hide the cash and disappear. With nothing more to say, Mark turned and walked away. That night, Mark realized his money was running out. The next day, he and Hernandez decided to steal from Carnal. To make it work, they first needed to distract Carlos, who still remembered losing his watch to Mark. Hernandez walked past him while flashing the stolen watch. Carlos immediately chased Hernandez, giving Mark the chance to act. Mark bumped into Carnal, slipped his hand into his pocket, and stole the money. Later, He and Hernandez split the cash and went their separate ways. Before leaving, Herdia invited Mark over for a drink. At her home, Herdia shared memories of her late husband while offering him beer. They grew closer until Hernandez entered, saw them, and quietly left. During their time together, Herdia confessed that Javi was targeting Hernandez as a liver donor. She feared her son could be taken at any time. Mark promised to protect him, leaving her stunned. Meanwhile, Carnal panicked when Caracas came to collect rent money that was already gone. Caracas accused him of trading it for drugs and warned that failure to recover the money would mean death. Soon after, Carlos reported that his missing watch had been returned. Carnal instantly realized who had robbed him. Carnal stormed into Hernandez's home and beat him. Herdia tried to intervene, but Carlos shoved her aside. Carnal then ordered Carlos to kill Mark. Outside, Mark noticed people pointing at him and understood Carlos was hunting him. He ran to the restroom to recover the pistol he had hidden. After dodging bullets, he grabbed the gun and shot Carlos dead. He then rushed to Hernandez's home. Inside, Herdia struck Carnal from behind, but he turned on her. Caracas arrived and beat Carnal down. While checking on Hernandez, Caracas was blindsided and hit in the head. As Carnal prepared to attack again, Mark burst in and shot him, saving Caracas. Mark then discarded the gun to show he wanted no fight with him. That night, Javi found Carnal dead while Caracas tended to his wounds. Enraged, Javi confronted his brother. Caracas explained Carnal had attacked Hernandez. When their aunt called, Javi handed the phone to Caracas. Neither told her about Carnal's death, fearing it would devastate her. Caracas instead claimed Mark was only a stranger they could use. Not long after, Javi confronted Mark, blaming him for Carnal's death. Mark argued that he had only helped, since Carnal tried to kill Hernandez and would have eventually betrayed Javi as well. To his surprise, Javi accepted the reasoning and spared him. That night, Javi discussed Mark with Caracas. Caracas insisted on killing him, but Javi refused, saying they first needed to learn who had sent him. The next day, Jack called Mark and claimed he had tracked the stolen money. He demanded a share in exchange for help. Mark hung up and went to see Caracas. He revealed that Vasquez and Romero had taken the money during his arrest. Instead of demanding it back, Mark offered to give it to Caracas. Shocked by the amount, Caracas agreed and sent men after Vasquez. At the same time, Vasquez and Romero were being tortured by Martin and Mike's crew. They counted the cash but realized it did not match the $4 million stolen from their boss Frank. Pressed for answers, Vasquez admitted that was all they had. Caracas's men then raided Vasquez's house. They found Romero dead and killed everyone else. Vasquez begged for his life, offering the money to Javi, but they killed him anyway. Hearing Javi's name, Frank realized who had his money and swore to take revenge. Soon after, the cash reached Javi's base. Caracas reported what happened and placed the blame on Mark. He also warned Javi that his smoking and drinking would only worsen his condition and make him need another donor sooner. Javi ignored the warning and ordered Caracas to prepare for surgery. Herdia was present, powerless to stop it. The next day, Martin and Mike met Jack and handed him money. Jack used it to bribe guards so Frank's men could sneak into the prison to kill Mark. While Mark was speaking with Herdia, 3 of Frank's men attacked. He rushed Herdia and Hernandez to safety. Caracas and his men responded, and a shootout erupted. Mark grabbed a gun from the ground and joined the fight. When a guard aimed at him, he fired back and killed him. Out of bullets, he spotted Herdia hiding. He also noticed an enemy about to throw a grenade. Mark sprinted, caught it, and threw it back, killing the attackers. Caracas saw everything and began to suspect Mark was not who he claimed. After the fight, Mark was brought to Javi. Furious over Frank's involvement, Javi executed the guards who had betrayed him. Armando warned this would bring more problems, but Javi ignored him. Javi demanded to know Mark's identity. Mark refused. Javi prepared to kill him, but when Mark spoke in Spanish, Javi hesitated.
Necesito algo de dinero.
Mark then offered a deal. He would take care of Frank himself, but he needed money, a car, weapons, and a new identity. Javi agreed, warning that the money was now his life. He also forbade Mark from contacting Hernandez. That night, Mark only watched Hernandez from a distance. Later, Armando informed Javi the prison would close in 2 days and all inmates would be moved under heavy guard. Javi realized he would lose his chance to take Hernandez's liver. He decided to rush the surgery. Javi smuggled Mark out with a new identity, Barnes. He gave him a car and weapons but secretly ordered Caracas to kill him later. On the road, Mark crossed into the U.S. He realized he was being followed but stuck to his plan. Disguised as a businessman, he called Kaufman and offered a partnership. Kaufman agreed to meet the next morning. Back in prison, Herdia saw Javi's personal surgeon arrive. She quickly hid Hernandez in a secret spot she had prepared earlier. Meanwhile, Javi paid the surgeon for the operation. On the road, Mark stopped at a store and bought a burger. He stuffed the meat into the exhaust pipe of his pursuer's car. When it broke down, he ambushed them and killed them using Javi's gun. Meanwhile, Herdia was captured and tortured because Hernandez was missing. Javi demanded repayment for all he had done for her. She spat in his face, and the torture continued until she revealed Hernandez's location. At the same time, Mark contacted Frank's lawyer while pretending to be Kaufman. He requested a meeting with Frank for business. The lawyer checked Kaufman's background and confirmed he owned a shipping company. Tempted, the lawyer agreed. That night, Frank learned Kaufman wanted to meet. Curious about the shipping business, he decided to go. Inside the prison, Javi tortured Herdia again for more answers, but she stayed silent. Desperate, Hernandez stabbed himself in the stomach to damage his liver. Herdia begged him to stop, but Javi rushed him to the infirmary. At the same time, Mark met Kaufman while posing as his assistant. When Kaufman was distracted, Mark drugged him and dragged him into the bathroom. Soon after, Frank and his lawyer arrived. Kaufman's secretary welcomed them inside. Since Frank had only seen Mark wearing a clown mask during the robbery, he did not recognize him. Mark told him Kaufman was in the bathroom and showed him a painting to distract him. While Frank and his lawyer studied it, Mark tossed a grenade and hid. The explosion killed them both. Kaufman briefly regained consciousness from the blast, but Mark slipped away unnoticed. Back in prison, Hernandez's condition stabilized though he remained unconscious. Impatient, Javi ordered the doctor to perform the surgery that night. Elsewhere, Mark broke into Jack's house while Jack was with an escort. Pointing a gun at him, Mark tied him to a chair and demanded help to free Hernandez and Herdia from prison.
To bring somebody out of prison here.
Jack laughed and revealed that Javi planned to perform the surgery that night, and the prison would be shut down the same evening. Mark took Jack's badge and asked where his car was. After hearing the answer, Jack begged for release. Instead, Mark paid the escorts and told them to take care of him. They gagged him and prepared to torture him. At the prison, Javi grew furious as police surrounded the area. He ordered Armando to prepare an ambulance for escape, then entered the operating room for the liver transplant. Police stormed the compound with ladders and helicopters. Riots broke out as chaos spread among the inmates. Using Jack's badge, Mark slipped inside. Armed with a pistol, he moved toward Javi's room. At first, he wanted only his money, but he thought of Hernandez and Herdia and changed course to the operating room. Inside, the doctor had already removed Javi's liver and was preparing to operate on Hernandez. Mark arrived in time, pointing his gun at the doctor. Moments later, Caracas entered. Mark aimed at Javi's head, forcing Caracas to escort Herdia out. Armando brought in the ambulance as the fighting calmed briefly. Caracas soon returned with reinforcements to capture Mark. Hiding under the bed, Mark ambushed them and shot them down. As he aimed at Caracas, Maylana, who had assisted with the surgery, raised her gun at Mark. Caracas thought he had one, but Maylana lowered her weapon, giving Mark the chance to kill him. Herdia rushed back to check on Hernandez, but Maylana assured her he was safe. Mark thanked her, and she admitted she had always hated Javi's group. Soon after, paramedics arrived. Disguised as nurses, Mark and Herdia carried the unconscious Hernandez to the ambulance. On the way out, Mark stopped by Javi's room and took back his money. Police stopped the ambulance briefly but allowed it through after seeing Hernandez's condition. Javi died, left without a liver or a donor to save him. Later, Mark and Hernandez, now recovered, visited the junkyard where his car was stored. Inside the trunk, Mark found another hidden stash of $2 million. Meanwhile, Kaufman sought revenge. He went to the real Barnes' house, where his men killed Barnes, an innocent man with no connection to the events. In the end, Mark dreamed of being at the beach with Hernandez and Herdia. They enjoyed their freedom together. Mark teased Herdia playfully, but when Hernandez called for his mother, Mark smiled and joined them, content to finally be part of their new family. So the moral of the story is, in a shady prison, snacks and cigarettes are worth more than gold.